Oh, yeah, we're off and running with another October edition of the Florida Football Insiders Preview. I'm TJ Rives. He's Todd Grasley. I'm going to say right up front, I'm in Memphis Tiger Blue. I don't know what this outfit is, but you're a UCF guy for the black and gold. UCF and Memphis are playing. At least we are on speaking terms right now.
Absolutely, and I was going for neutral to not be biased, but I think after Saturday's contest, you might be buying me lunch.
Oh, really? We got a lunch bet on that game that's coming up. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the schedule first for the college games that are coming up? We have a Friday night game. USF, living on Tulsa time. That's a song before your time, Todd. USF in Tulsa, taking on American Conference foe Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Friday night game for Charlie Strong's unbeaten Bulls. So we're going to be previewing that one coming up. And then on the Saturday slate, Gators early with Vanderbilt in Nashville. Then UCF Memphis in the afternoon in my hometown, Memphis, Tennessee, and then Miami at Virginia. Interesting ACC game. We're going to be previewing all of these games. No Florida State this week, but some interesting games this weekend.
Absolutely, and the Gators coming off a big win against LSU. Miami surviving against FSU, and UCF looking to continue the nation's longest winning streak to 19 games.
All right, so we got a lot to get to here on the preview. We're excited to bring it to you. It will be Friday night football for USF at Tulsa, again for the Bulls, an American Conference matchup. And look, I know they're undefeated at 5-0. You can't knock being unbeaten. But the wins over Illinois, East Carolina, and even UMass last week, they all have losing records. And in UMass's case, I know Jordan Cronkrite for USF ran for 300 yards. But, folks, they needed all of that because UMass still scored 42 points in the game on USF. Now, the good news is this Tulsa team is struggling. They're 1-4. They have had 16 turnovers in 5 games. So USF may benefit from Tulsa giving the ball away. But this is not just a layup. This is not just a gimme for a Friday night game in the conference. Let's see if the Bulls can get to 6-0 when they get ready to play some tougher teams on their schedule.
Kicking off our Saturday slate will be the Gators heading to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. And for the Gators, you call it Tim Tebow's pregame speech, call it fire of the SEC, call it what you will. But that game against LSU, the Gators took it to a whole nother level. P. Ryan and Scarlett trying to get the offense going. Felipe Franks, not his best game, but it was the defense. Tackles for loss, sacks, 4 interceptions, interrupting Joe Burrow's game and the LSU offense. Vanderbilt has beaten Florida once since 1992. The last time they beat them in Nashville, 1989. The Gators, 3 wins in a row against SEC foes. Look for them to pick up their 4th in Nashville Saturday afternoon. The biggest game in the state of Florida might be UCF as they travel to Memphis. The Knights coming off a big win against SMU. But Memphis, a huge conference opponent. Last year, these two teams met twice, with UCF winning 62-55 in the conference championship game. It was a double overtime thriller that sent them to the Peach Bowl. For Memphis, they can put up points. They're averaging about 40 points a game and have the NCAA's leading rusher in Darrell Henderson. So if the Knights want to stop that offensive attack by Memphis, Coach Josh Heupel says they have to be balanced on defense. That'll be the key to the game on Saturday.
The emotional win for the Miami Hurricanes last week over Florida State, down at one point in the second half, 27-7, an epic 20-point second-half comeback as the Canes came roaring back behind N'Kosi Perry's 3 touchdowns. Now, he was not great for a lot of the game, but he threw a couple of key touchdown passes. Their defense was outstanding last week, harassing DeAndre Francois, sacking him, creating turnovers in the second half. They will have to have more of that when they travel to Virginia. The Cavaliers have a couple of ACC wins already. Beat Louisville back a couple of weeks ago. Now they play at home at night in Charlottesville. And for Virginia, they have beaten Miami each of the last 3 times at home in ACC play. So the Canes looking to remain undefeated, in control of their destiny in the division to try to get to the ACC championship game. Won't be easy at Virginia on Saturday night. Florida Football Insiders Preview brought to you in part by Furman Nissan of Tampa and the Nissan Heisman House, home of the Heisman Trophy. Check out more on all the great deals throughout the football season at FurmanNissan.com. All right, Todd Grasley back with me, TJ Rives. Are you and I going to square off about Memphis and UCF here or what?
It should be an exciting one, and Luckily for UCF fans, it's not just the Mackenzie Milton show. 6 different players scored touchdowns on offense last week.
Well, and you mentioned that Darrell Henderson can run the ball for Memphis. There are going to be a lot of points in this game. That's my alma mater. Used to do games on college radio in the old Liberty Bowl Stadium. That's still there, so let's see what happens in that one. What do you say we take a look at the NFL schedule that's coming next? You'll notice 2 early games. That includes the Dolphins hosting the Chicago Bears. Boy, you'll have more on the Dolphins in a couple of moments, but they were really struggling last week in the second half with Cincinnati. So that matchup early, 1 o'clock, Hard Rock Stadium. Also, Buccaneers in Atlanta. I'll be part of the Bucs radio broadcast with Gene Deckerhoff and Dave Moore heading up to Atlanta. Buccaneers off the bye week. Jameis Winston back in the fold. More on that game in a bit. And then the Jaguars. You'll be previewing this game in a moment. Jaguars against the Cowboys. Doesn't get any easier for them after a tough one in Kansas City.
Absolutely a tough test in Ezekiel Elliott and the Cowboys. And for both the Jaguars, the Dolphins, and even the Bucs, the story is, how do you rebound from those 2 losses and get the offense going?
Yeah, all 3 of the teams are definitely searching as we begin to play this week.
The Dolphins host the division-leading Bears Sunday afternoon in Miami. And for the Dolphins, they need to get their sputtering offense back on track. They had a 17-7 lead last week at halftime until the Bengals bounced back and defeated them. This week, they have Mitch Trubisky and the Bears. Trubisky 2 weeks ago against the Bucs looked like an MVP candidate with 6 touchdowns. Can they stop Tariq Cohen, the Bears offense, and Mitch Trubisky? Ryan Tannehill will have to have a big game. Last week, Kenyon Drake, Frank Gore. Frank Gore was the leading rusher coming out of nowhere. Kenyon Drake, the leading wide receiver. If that's the way the offense shakes up for Miami, it could be a long afternoon. Defensively, the Bears are led by Khalil Mack. And defensively for the Dolphins, they're going to rely on their defensive backfield, who leads the league in interceptions with 10 on the year. The Jacksonville Jaguars head to Dallas and Jerry's World to take on the Cowboys. Jags coming off a 30-14 beatdown against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. It was a game where Blake Bortles threw 4 interceptions. Leonard Fournette inactive as well for this week. The Jags pick up Jamal Charles, the former Chiefs running back. See if he or TJ Yeldon will carry the load for Jacksonville on Sunday. Dak Prescott struggling in Houston last week in an overtime loss to the Texans. Ezekiel Elliott will have to carry the load. He is the leading rusher in the NFL this season. The key for the Jaguars in this one will be their defense. Linebackers Telvin Smith and Miles Jack, as well as A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey in the backfield.
Well, Todd, for the Buccaneers, they travel to Atlanta off the bye week. You were making reference to Mitch Trubisky throwing the 6 touchdown passes. Well, the Bucs were on the wrong end of that. They've had a couple of weeks to get some things corrected. Will not be easy against Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Buccaneer fans know all too well that Julio Jones has been a buck killer. He had 13 catches in the game in Atlanta last year for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Got to find that guy. They may be double-teaming him when he gets off of the bus on Sunday, trying to get after number 11 in the Falcon colors on Sunday afternoon. Jameis Winston back as the starting quarterback. He played in the second half of the game against Chicago. Don't know how much you can glean from that. Jameis does have a win in his career in Atlanta in the opening game of the 2016 season when the Bucs defeated the Falcons. Jameis was a quarterback. Let's see if the Bucs can rebound, get to 3-2 on the season. Division opponent. This would be a chance for 2 road division wins. Already a win in New Orleans. Could they get another one on Sunday for a second NFC South road win? We'll find out on Sunday. You know who's really hurting right now?
Who's that, TJ?
Fantasy football owners that have Leonard Fournette. They don't know what to do because Fournette hasn't been playing. TJ Yeldon and Jamal Charles, like you mentioned, very interesting. Signed him this week. He wasn't in a training camp this year. He's going to be about 32 years old a little later on this year. Can he give them a spark in Dallas? We will find out. Why don't we take a look at the schedule one more time? Again, USF on Friday night. You may be watching this later in the weekend and know how the Bulls did. That's a Friday night game with Tulsa. Gators early with Vanderbilt at noon. That UCF Memphis game. Todd is still smiling even though you can't see him all the time. He's still smiling about UCF Memphis on Saturday afternoon in the 18-game win streak. And then the Saturday night game is Miami and Virginia. You think the Knights are going to roll in this one and win convincingly?
Absolutely. I think it's always a great matchup when these two teams meet, and there is home field advantage for your Tigers, but Hey, once a night, always a night.
Well, and for UCF, this is probably their toughest road game until the very end of the year, the Friday after Thanksgiving, in the matchup with USF in Tampa. Let's see if they can get by on that one. NFL schedule one more time. Dolphins taking on the Bears at Hard Rock Stadium. Early game. Look out for Khalil Mack and company, as you were mentioning. Buccaneers in Atlanta at the same time with Jameis Winston back at quarterback. And then a lot of eyes will be on the Jaguars and the Cowboys. You know, the Jags rose to the occasion at home with the Patriots. They didn't do so well against the first-place Chiefs last week. Dallas is kind of wavering right now with a game in Dallas. This is going to be an interesting matchup.
And I think it's a big confidence booster for Blake Bortles and the rest of the Jags. He threw 4 picks last week. Wasn't his best game. Can the Jags turn their season around after 2 losses?
All right, we're going to find out if that's the case. Did you have fun as always?
Always.
All right, again, he and I think, have lunch, as we have established. Lunch bet coming on UCF and Memphis. For Todd Grasley, I'm TJ Rives. Enjoy all the games this weekend. Keep reading up on it and watching us on FloridaFootballInsiders.com.